to say again, with Nearsay, we were talking about this earlier, we have the top 3 reasons that people come to our website, and we do post a lot of the same content across the board, but it manifests itself in different ways, and a lot of it, I think, Trump, this speaks to something you said, is it's about being proactive versus reactive. So an example I'll use, we have a district deals page on our website. Again, keep in mind, one of our main goals in the neighborhood is to promote the local businesses. So we let local businesses tell us about any deals that they want to post, and it's on our website. Our website is a combination of static content and dynamic content. So neighborhood news, district deals, and the directory of businesses is changing as things are changing in the neighborhood. But we have to have somebody know about the district deals page, to come to the district deals page, see what the businesses are doing, and then hopefully actually go to the businesses and do whatever the deal is saying. Twitter, on the other hand, if we know that San Rocco is having a lunch special, we have an audience of Twitter followers, we know they're interested in us, we know they're interested in the neighborhood, and we'll tweet that out. So it's proactive, right? It's not waiting for somebody to come to the site, it's proactive. But one of the things I want to say about Nearsay is that now we have Nearsay as the 3rd largest reason why people are coming to the website. So anytime I post something
Morgan, can you write that down, please?
She already told me.
So anytime I post something on Nearsay, I'm very careful at the end to then talk about, for more information on neighborhood restaurants, go to discover.iron.org, because I want to get that out there, because again, main goal, it's like the home example, right? Main goal, you want people to come home, but there's different ways to get them to come home. So I think that's great. Direct website is number 1, Google search is number 2, and then Nearsay post number 3. So, and that's been since February. So that's kind of, like for us, that's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, being right next to Google is a big deal for us too. I was trying to think of analogies. You had your analogy. I was trying to think like, well, what would I like use as an analogy for Twitter, Facebook, and my website? So like on Twitter, you're like posting a couple times a day, and that might be a little bit much for somebody's face. If they hear from you a couple times a day on Facebook, it's a little intrusive. So I think of like Twitter as like a cocktail party, right? Like everyone's talking, I see somebody talking something interesting over there, I say, hey, what's going on? I like what you're talking about, the artist in residence thing, you should come to my clubhouse. And Facebook's my clubhouse, where everybody I've invited in can participate, they can upload photos, they can make comments of their own, and it's all associated in my clubhouse. And my website, it's my library, right? Like, I was trying to think, what is my website? My website's my library. It's where people go on their own and do a bunch of research and kind of read about stuff. So anytime I'm social, it's at a cocktail party, meeting new people, hearing what they have to say, some of my people are there, versus Facebook, which is my clubhouse, versus my website, which is the library. And I guess that's why I don't go to a lot of websites, because I don't go to the library very much either. So I'm going to hold questions because there are a couple things that I wanted to get out a little beforehand. We'll get back to questions. What have you guys done? So it's about publishing and getting stuff out there and getting people to read it. Picking up followers or likes or whatever it is. How have you partnered with people to make 1 + 1 = 3? Have you done anything like that that's really been successful, or have you done anything interesting from a partnership perspective to help transfer their followers to your followers or get a greater voice?
Talking more than I thought. Okay, well, this is brand new, so it's not conclusive or anything yet, but we have just launched a tasting tour event in the East Village, and we've been working very closely with Thrillist, who are our exclusive media partner there, and they're selling all the tickets and helping us out. Well, we launched earlier this week, and already we sort of have a tide of people coming through and watching our East Village Eats blog. East Village Eats blog has a plan to put a profile of every single restaurant over the next 2 weeks, ultimately having a big bonanza at the end where everyone's coming, and it's going to be a great event and going to be brilliant. But that means we have been able to hold on to all of those extra readers on the audience and hopefully keep them going, keep them coming back to the blog over the next 2 weeks, and hopefully after the event, coming back even more so to find out about more restaurants we're involved with, And the restaurants themselves, on top of that, have been tweeting and directing people to our blog. So we have a whole other slew of partners and we're getting more traffic that way. So I think we spiked on the launch day and kind of went up by 1,000%, something ridiculous. So that I think that will be a good demonstration of how partnerships are working for us really well.
Two other very quick ones. We did something with an organization called, or a website called Theater is Easy, and they had just started and they reached out to us, so we did an exchange of banner ads on each other's sites, so that just for free for each other, so that people on our site, which is mostly theaters, would come and see they're doing reviews and other things, and then their visitors would see all the different kinds of shows that we had. So that was kind of a nice cross promotion that was very easy and completely affordable to do, and a really good way to kind of cross promote. We also did one with Whole Foods, where for 6 months, every month, we had a trivia question that they would tweet out to their followers, which are pretty extensive. And that would be like a theater trivia question, like, where did rent start, blah, blah. And then whoever would win the trivia, or whoever did it first or whatever it was, I can't even remember what the rules were now, they could get free theater tickets for that. Actually, it was every week. Yeah, so every week. They could go to the Whole Foods and pick up free theater tickets to shows that week. So it was like good promotion for the theater groups. It was nice promotion for Whole Foods, and then it directed a lot more people to check us out and find out what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate that. So if you came to New York State, we have about 10,000 social media followers across all our neighborhoods. If you said, hey, we want to give away 2 tickets to some of your followers, if they do something, if they follow us, whatever else, we would just retweet it. We would just say yes, and I think almost everybody else would as well. So if you reach out and give something minor, something empty, 2 empty seats to a meetup, or something like that, yeah, we would. Almost anybody would say yes because it's a value to their audience, and if it's as long as it's brand consistent, right? So, any other examples of interesting ways you guys should be working together? Maybe ice skaters versus fashion designers, like a Twitter battle.
Well,
that actually could really work.
Well, Ryan, actually, we recently had a bid marketing group meetup, and we met, and my team met Ryan, and so now they talk a lot. We talk to the big button. It's the big button on Twitter. If you've been to the fashion center, you see the big button. So yeah, so we talk back and forth, and kind of joke because we're neighbors, and it's fun. It's great. And I think that it's important if you get collaborations with partners. It's fantastic. It's great to promote an event or something you have special coming out. I think it's also important to remember that don't have really high expectations. I know on the blog that people I've collaborated, I get huge spikes, and then the next day it's way down. So the only thing that really keeps consistent, the day-to-day is really just spending the time, unfortunately, really working on reaching out to people and talking to people, and just patiently building up your audience. That's really important, because those are people who will stay with you, who won't unfollow the next day, and who will keep coming back because they're really interested in what you're doing.
How do you?
I would just like to reiterate that point, is that kind of the approach after doing this for a year, especially on Twitter, that it kind of seems more like not so much, I ideally would like to let everyone know what's going on in our neighborhood, but to get everyone to follow you, to me it's kind of like you have to go out and make friends with people. It's making friends, and it's not really like any kind of business.
Kind of like a cocktail party?
Kind of like a cocktail party. Like that, you have to pay attention to what other people are saying, and then, even if you're not interested, pretend like you're interested so that they like you. So it really...
The Twitter account just took a hit.
Yeah, that's fine. I've said worse things on there. But yeah, it's really more, it's that's why it's called social media, but you really have to think of it that way, as you can't really go around, even with blogs, so you can't go around leaving comments, hey, check out my blog, and not act interested in what anyone else is saying. You have to really, that's why it's so time consuming, right? You have to read what they write and actually be interested in it and take note and be thoughtful about it.
So I think that transitions to two questions. One is, what are the biggest mistakes that you've made that we can learn from? And the second is, how do you get started? So let's start with the biggest mistake. What are the biggest mistakes you guys made? I'll tell you my biggest mistake on Nearsay. We were like, we mostly tweet out our stories, so let's just take an automatic feed out of our website. Every time we publish a story, let's just publish it to our Twitter. And so it just had the title and the headline. And it just totally flattened off, because people can detect, if it has no voice, if it's not a real person, like if it's just an RSS feed or just a PR wire. And that was devastating, because I knew it was the wrong thing, but you have this pressure. Like, I don't have enough people. I've got Morgan. Morgan does everything at Nearsay, and so it's like, I need more Morgan time. So let's just auto-publish. And it was, I had Whole Foods come to me and said, well, we don't really want to retweet your stuff. We don't actually want to be associated with your Twitter feed in its current format. That was a stake through the heart. So we immediately went back and all do it manually and hired an intern and some other stuff. So that was our biggest mistake on social media. What were some of yours? This sounds good.
Okay, this has got nothing to do with that. When I was in London, I had just started working with a major festival, thousands and thousands of followers, and a big parade. There's 100,000 people in the parade. There are apparently, according to the police, 1 million spectators, and we have a lot of those followers. So, with all of that captive audience, I wasn't managing the process, but it was decided that we would blast all of these people that we had with information for a month leading up to the event, which also involved a 2-week festival with over 50 different events in different venues all across London. Needless to say, the people that were loyal and faithful and dedicated, all the new people that we'd attracted over the year, from the first couple of days of just being sales pitched at constantly about, come to this event, do this thing, join the march, let's do this, let's do that, all trailed off. Any activity that we had, all the energy that we cultivated started to drip off, and we had to try very, very hard in the last 2 weeks to apologize for it. We had to backtrack a whole lot, get rid of some of the events that we were trying to promote, and essentially slimline, cut off all the fat. And it was a lot of work for a lot of people. Don't recommend doing it. Think about how you can streamline your communications, if anything. So they're going the other way and just putting it all out there. That's probably the biggest mistake I've ever seen. Hopefully we'll never see it again.
So my lesson is, don't be the boring guy at the cocktail party. Your lesson is, don't be the pushy guy at the cocktail party.
We'll grab the mic too much.
Any other big mistakes? You said you did some things. You said some things you wish you hadn't said.
That was more of it was part of a fault where, I didn't get in too much trouble for it because we didn't have a lot of followers at the time, and nobody at my office really cares about Facebook or Twitter. No one that can fire me at my office cares about Facebook or Twitter. So, but initially maybe being, one of the things I do is that we decided at the start when I took over, we have a big information kiosk on 7th Avenue, 39th Street, and there's a giant needle and button on it. And one of the problems we've always had is that nobody knows who we are, even in our own district. And I've had there's literally conversations where someone has said, "Oh, like I said, I work for the Fashion Center a bit. Well, what do you guys do?" I said, "Well, we do all the security and sanitation, and we have events, and we have information on any kind of fashion or garment need you may have." And, "Oh, I've never heard of you guys before. Are you new?" I said, "No." I said, "Well, I've been here 7 years and never heard of you. How long have you been here?" I said, "We've been here 17 years. So, but as soon as I say, "Well, do you know the big button?" They go, "Oh, the big button." So I kind of I post as the big button. So it's it's kind of silly, but so it's kind of it's a lot of and it's a lot of some lame jokes. But I kind of got too relaxed a few times, and maybe. But you have to remember, it's business. That's I mean, it's maybe like an obvious thing, but I mean, once you start trying to find a voice for it, and if it's kind of fun, and you have to remember that you may have to pay for anything silly.
I deleted a tweet last night.
Yeah, late night.
There was a negative article about a competitor, and perhaps I was a little too thrilled about it.
When I first started,
I didn't think it was that bad. But.
I first started looking for followers. I had a lot of stupid ideas about how to get followers. Like, hey, I'm going, and this was more just because I thought it'd be fun. I'm going to start a rivalry with a neighboring vid, and then I would say something trying to provoke some kind of back and forth, and they would go, "Oh, you're very funny," and that was it. And then so. I appreciate the thought. It didn't turn out quite well. So
I just want to say, so everything Ryan said is terrifying as an executive director of the organization. This is the thing about social media, and Eric will tell you, we had a very difficult pregnancy, labor, and delivery with Twitter in particular, because I was terrified of Twitter. Partly because I wasn't on Twitter, and and I'm like 30 plus 10, so I'm not, like me. And I'm somewhat internet savvy, obviously, but Twitter was kind of new still, and I didn't do it myself. And it is different when you're doing these things as an organization and an entity. It's not like the individual. We know the individuals can get into a lot of trouble too. We've just found out over the last couple days. But it's a whole different thing. So with Twitter, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but I was very concerned about the messaging, how often, how much is too much. If we take something on, and this is across the board with the organization, if we're going to take something on, we're small, there's only 4 full-time staff members. So if we're going to commit to it, we're going to do it well, and we're going to, not do it for 4 days and be like, this is stupid, we're not going to do it anymore. So for some reason, Twitter for me, I made Eric spend like 4 weeks convincing me why we should do it, and then another 4 weeks of like, you have to show me every tweet before it goes out, because I was concerned about the informal nature of it and being too off the cuff, quite frankly, because we are a business-related organization or a community organization. We have a board of directors, responsible members of the community. We can't be as cute as a lot of what Twitter is. So I do think it's a balance, and then also what we found with Twitter, we were just talking about this earlier, is that to really do it and do it well, it is very time consuming. Ryan was just talking about this. I mean, we want to be able to retweet things that our businesses are doing and all of that. Unless you have somebody dedicated to it, it's very difficult to do what you need to do. And you were saying, like, you fell into it too, like, let's auto post, like, because who has the time, honestly? So I would say to really, my advice, it's not a mistake, because I think it's good that we're on it, but, Eric and I over the last 6 months have had conversations about how can we get more proactive with Twitter, let's do more, and then it's good intentions, and then we get really busy with something else, and then we end up where we're doing like 1 tweet every 2 weeks. So now we have an intern over the summer, so we're going to try to sort of kick it up and frankly see what it does for the numbers and what it does for the following. But it is a lot of it's trial and error, and you just don't know until you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on 2 things, which is, one is things like Twitter, you need to publish a lot. I mean, it's 140 characters, but it's a lot to publish 6 things a day, like 6 thoughts a day. And yeah, and they're tools to help you, right? And to retweet people and schedule stuff and those type of things. But how do you create that volume when you don't have time at an executive level, but also let somebody at a junior level be empowered to actually do it? And that's scary. And I think the reality is you're going to make mistakes on social media, and it's better to have some young person, some intern, do it and guide them and help them, especially on the early process, and like guide them about like, okay, I get what you're going for here, but you need to be a little bit more this, and you need to and get kind of going, and then you're going to set it loose, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to regret some things that you said, kind of like a cocktail party. So I mean that goes to a question of like, how do you get started? And one of the frustrating things in like the internet is all about big graphs, and they're like asymptotic, right? It's like the big graph and it grows like that, and that's what's going to happen on your Twitter account, right? Like for the first month, it's going to be like, oh, I got 2 followers, it's amazing. 5 followers, you're like a week in and you have 10 people following you, and you spent like 5 hours doing this to talk to 10 people, and you're like, what am I doing? Because on this side of the curve, even though it's increasing, it looks pretty flat. It's always great to be on this side of the curve. So it can be very frustrating. And like a blog, many people give up in the first month. I haven't written on my blog in a year since I started Nearsay, as an example. But that, neither here nor there, I guess. But how do you get started? How do you get started? I mean, there are a bunch of people here who probably have a website. No offense, it's probably terrible. I've looked at a lot of community organization sites. I've helped build one, and it could be a lot better. How do you get started? What do you focus on? Who do you put on it? Like, how do you get the organizational momentum? How do you deal with organizations that have like a board of 10 people who are traditionally approving every statement that goes out? How do you deal with it?
I think that at Landmark West we had the same kind of hesitancy that Jennifer was talking about, and when we were first thinking about how are we going to do this, I think we found that we just had to do it. Just stop, middling with all the text, and just trust that if we kind of all have an understanding of what our mission or what our theme, what our tone we want it to be, and then just start it and just see where it takes us. And in terms of, I think, some of the first things that we really talked about, I had mentioned the Kickstarter funding project, but then just the kind of the things that we do regularly. We always have, for example, a committee that reviews designs for changes to landmark buildings. Our committee's meeting. Every Tuesday we meet, so every Tuesday we talk about the committee meeting, so people start to see some pattern and some regularity. And when they don't see it, they're like, what's going on with that committee? Is it meeting today? So then people start to kind of pay more attention. And then I think telling people, we're here now. Other organizations that are similar to us that we already know are on Twitter, on Facebook, and blogs, letting them know, and hoping for the best in terms of, are they going to then share the news that we've launched to others as well. And I think that we found a good amount of success.
I would say that consistency is really important, and it's hard to do it, and you're totally right, when you're really just talking to very few people. Like our blogs, we started our first blog, people were like, you gotta have a blog, you have to have a blog. I'm like, why? What are we gonna say? I don't know what we're gonna say. So we just started doing it, and like nobody looked at it, and we're like, is this worth it? And we have so much content. I mean, we work with 24 different arts organizations. There's just like content coming out the zoo, and we were like, all right, we'll start to get people to do guest blogging. We'll get a lot of other voices in here. We'll just start, and we just like started to do it consistently, and we saw that people started following it, and that there were more people, and then guest bloggers bring audiences who then stay around and want to read what you have going on regularly, and eventually we decided that it was important for us to have this blog voice, and we consolidated and made some decisions about how to do it better. But it was really just like we had to just get started, and getting started was just saying, okay, we're going to do this. And in the beginning, we're like, oh, we're going to do one blog a week, and now we do like 4 a day, something, I don't know, crazy. But it's that consistency and just making a commitment to whichever tool you're going to use, and say, okay, I'm going to just really, really try this out, and I'm going to look and see how other people are doing it, and I'm going to learn from what they're doing, and become more comfortable in that role.
Can I just make a really quick point about that? Exactly right, and thinking we're on the same page about blogs and Twitter. I always found it a bit challenging to start tweeting. They kind of put an analogy come in, like an actor game into the stage. I've got to know who my audience is as far as I can, who I'm trying to engage first. My base audience. Know what my script is, know my lines, and I'm like, okay, this is what I want to be talking about. And be ready for the audience to change, right in front of my eyes, if I start talking, improvise while I'm out there, if there's not a prop way, I need a prop. And kind of work on being flexible, and really, probably most crucially, listening to what's around me. Or like at the cocktail party, you don't just want to be talking and nobody's really listening, they're looking around. trying to find an excuse to get away. It's very, very similar. Just know why you're there, know where you're coming from. I think that's probably basic stuff.
So we're going to open it up to Q&A, but first, very quick. Everybody here has Facebook, Twitter, blog? Yes? Website? No?
That's a question I have right now. That we just got 3 new interns this summer, these 3 girls, and they're going to start a blog about that. They're learning about the neighborhood. They don't know anything about the neighborhood, so they're going to chronicle their adventures, and we're going to put it on our website. So there's a debate about how should it be separate, like separate blogs, or should it be incorporated on the website itself, and
Or both?
or both. But that's, I don't really like our website, so I'm leaning towards something else. But I guess does it work well? I don't know. I think the Park Slope bid does that, right? He has a separate blog. I haven't done this on his website as well, but I'm not sure.
It sometimes depends on the politics, right? Like you can do a blog that may not be, board approved by everybody, and it really depends. I'm of the opinion that whatever content you have, you share it as far, like upload it to YouTube, post it on Facebook. You have a blog post, you post it on Facebook, you post it on Twitter, you post it to your friends, you email it out to your whatever it is. Any chance you have, like to publish, send it everywhere. Now that doesn't mean you do all the same things in all the same networks, but if you have something like a blog post, an article that you've written, something that's a little bit more long format and interesting, you tend to throw it everywhere. All right, so let's focus then on Facebook and Twitter, because I think those are the ones that like people have a lot of questions about. Who here regrets setting up their Facebook account? You hate Facebook?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I use it. It's a great tool. It's been a great. I think it's really important to have it. I just personally don't like Facebook. I love Twitter. But I think you have to have a Facebook. I don't think you have to have a blog, but I think that Facebook and Twitter are really important, and the two do. I know that when we had a contest on our blog, we got a ton of traffic from our Facebook and our Twitter, so I think it's really important. But
So you regret having to do it, but you don't regret having it. You know you have it. Do you guys, who here regrets their Twitter account, having a Twitter account, wish they never started it? So none of them. So, LinkedIn. Interesting. From an organization perspective, who has LinkedIn?
that's interesting because I was just looking at our LinkedIn profile and I completely forgot about it. And I have heard that people are actually starting to get jobs from their LinkedIn profiles. I think it's really growing, and I think it's going to do lots of interesting things. I personally don't use it that much, but I would have a LinkedIn.
Professionally, LinkedIn, you have to be on LinkedIn. As a person, it is your resume online. If anybody is looking to ever wants to have a job in the future, have a resume on LinkedIn.